Hello crafty friends, welcome to my channel. Today we're going to bust a bunch of backgrounds from my box of backgrounds and bits by combining them with die cuts made using outline dies. So I've selected lots of backgrounds and I've die cut lots of outlines, and I'm going to play around with them today and create as many cards as I can. What I'm going to do first of all is add some glue to the back of this die cut. Now I'm going to try this method. This was something I saw on a Lou Collins video a little while ago. She braided up some glue and then put it on the back of a die cut. So I thought I'd try that today as a way of quickly gluing this intricate die cut. So I'm going to pop this on here, take a piece of non-stick paper and give it a good press down, and I'm going to leave it to dry. So that's background one and die cut one. And that seems to be a pretty good way of quickly gluing an intricate die cut like that. There's very little in the way of splurging. So for this panel, I've got this outline die which does a couple of roses, but before I glue my die cut down, I'm going to place my roses on here where I want them, and I've put this in my die cutting sandwich with the rubber mat directly underneath the card because I want to emboss the pattern from the die into the card. Oh, it moved, but hey ho, never mind. So I'm going to use the glue that I braided on my mat and press this down into it to add glue to the back of the die cut. That's another way of adding glue to the back of intricate die cuts. And now I can put that on there, locking it into place over the embossing. Again, I'll press that down. And hopefully you can see this is a faux inlay technique, whereby the embossing has sort of pushed the cardstock up into the holes in the die cut. So I've got another die cut here. I'll add some glue to the back of it with my brayer. I'm not sure if it's going to be sticky enough. The glue might have dried a bit. Ooh, try not to mangle it with your brayer. And now I'm going to run this through my die cutting machine, again with the embossing sandwich with the rubber mat directly underneath the cardstock. And what that's done is that's pushed the die cut down into the card. I'm actually going to do it again, this time with a cutting plate, because I think it'll apply a little bit more pressure. So there you can see how the die cut has been pushed down into the cardstock. And now I've got a very flat die cut card combo. So with this die, I'm actually going to do some proper inlay. I'm going to cut this using my die cutting machine. I'll just add some glue to the back of the outline, and then I'm going to put some glue on the back of each of the little bits that I want to put into my die cut. You could always save the outline from this, but it did tear, so I'm just going to leave it as is. So we'll lock that in there as best we can, and then just poke these out of the die, trying not to make too much of a pokey mess of them. They might not fit in perfectly first time, but at least you know where they're supposed to go and you can wiggle them into place. There's not an awful lot of contrast between the background and the foreground on this, so it might not have been the best colour combination, but hey ho. Right, I've not done a particularly fantastic job of that, and there's a few bits that I've lost. I don't know where they've gone, but I will find them. So that used up two backgrounds, the background and then the one I used to cut the bits to inlay. So this one here is a little frame with, whoops, rolled it right up. This one is a little frame. I think I've not mangled it too badly. And this would look really nice as a bookmark, I think, but you can obviously use them on cards as well. I have got some muck there from where it wrapped itself around the brayer, but I'll see if I can salvage that later. So here I've got a a heart, lots of little bits cut out of it, and I think that would look nice on there. I want to get this heart behind a bit of the colour. Doesn't matter that that's hanging off because I'll probably cut this down anyway, as I will cut all of them down to make them nice and neat and tidy. So this die cuts a really big, lovely sort of tile-esque aperture. So strictly speaking, it's not an outline, but you can treat it like one because you can cut it down. I'm just going to stick it on here like this, let it dry, and then we'll cut it down in a bit. For this one, I've got 3 of these circle outline things, and I'm going to pop it on this background, and I'm going to stagger them like that. I think when using this brayering glue technique, it's useful to have some baby wipes or wet wipes or a wet cloth handy so you can clean your glass mat or whatever you're using. For this background, I've die cut lots of stitched circular frames using these dies, and I'm going to pop these all on here, going from biggest to smallest, overlapping them, covered up a little blemish there that didn't really fit with the rest of the background. So this background is just gold heat embossing. I think it was part of one of my smushing videos. We've got these pretty patterns here. This is I think it's Creative Expressions, and you get an outline and you get an inside. And if you use that on its own, you get an aperture. That on its own, you get an aperture. But if you put them together, you get the thing. So I'm going to spread those down here, tumbling down like that. Now these die cuts aren't strictly speaking outlines, they're just leafy branchy pieces of foliage. I'm going to put them on this because they'll stand out nicely and I can create my own pattern. This was, again, smushing, I think, one of my 22 ways to smush videos. And I smushed deco foil glue, I think it was, and then foiled it with my laminator and some wow foil. So I've got this little swirly whirly die. It's from Sizzix, just a little abstract pattern, kind of floral. I've got a few of those. Some of them didn't make it out of the die intact, but that's okay, I can still use bits of them. And for my last little bunch, I've got these outline net type dies. I think they're all from Tattered Lace and have been retired for a while, but I picked them up at my crafty charity shop, so I thought I'd use those. To clean up the PVA glue, the white glue that I've spread all over my mat, I just give it a squirt with water, make it wet, give it a second or two to soften and dissolve, and then take something metal. This is just a set square, could use plastic, gift card type thing, and just scrape it up, wipe it with a cloth or a baby wipe, and that gets that. And the brayer I will run under the tap. So now we have lots of backgrounds with outline die cuts stuck on them. What I'm going to do is chop them down with some other dies or my trimmer, and then stick them on the front of a card and show you the finished products. So I have made, I think, 18 cards from all of those backgrounds and die cuts, and I will quickly walk you through them. For this one, I cut that with a stitched rectangle panel, popped it on a hammered textured white cardstock card blank for a bit of a luxurious feel, and then added a happy birthday sentiment which I'd previously stamped and cut. So I've actually got a visual triangle here. I've got 3 elements, so you can draw a triangle, which is a very pleasing arrangement, and on one of the triangle points I've got the sentiment. With this other shiny panel, I cut it down using the same stitched rectangle panel die as that one, and then added another happy birthday there, which is sitting roughly on that intersection of this line and this line on the rule of thirds grid. Again, another pleasing arrangement. And I think these panels needed to be smaller, so they had a bigger white border around the outside. Because they're metallic and shiny and bright, they need a little bit of extra space around them to set them off. For this card, I put a happy birthday again on an intersection of the rule of thirds grid. I didn't add anything else. I thought about maybe some bling, some Nouveau drops, but it's quite a nice flat postable card. And I think the white die cut stands out nicely on there. It doesn't need anything else. So sometimes less really is more. For this one, again, I die cut a panel. It's not quite as small as the metallic ones, but it did give me plenty of this die cut. And then I added another die cut sentiment up there, which pops nicely against the colour behind it. Again, no bling. It does have a slight shimmer to it because I think I use pigment powders and glycerin to make this background. And here I popped a happy birthday bang over the heart, which was central in the panel that I cut out. There's plenty going on without the need for anything else, I think. For this one, I added a partial panel in the top left-hand corner. And then I added a Have the Best Birthday Ever die cut here. I did have a few more in my little birthday sentiments box, so I added it going round the corner and all the way to the top and coming in from there. So actually you could use this as a landscape card because that Have the Best Birthday Ever reads horizontally, or you can have it this way. I did add a bit of bling to this. I just rummaged through my box of dots and glued some wobbly gold circles there, just to draw your attention to one of the sentiments. For this one, I used a stitch rectangle die again, positioning it so that the circles were kind of gathered in this area. Please excuse the aeroplane flying overhead. And then I've got a little bit of empty space up here. I added this I Heard Today's Your Birthday die cut and then lots of little gold dots around it to draw your eye to this area. I think this would look nice heat embossed in gold. I used another partial panel again. I popped it on at a jaunty angle, added a happy birthday there, and then a row of wobbly gold circles just for bling and a bit of movement. You already get a sense of movement because it looks like this partial panel is sweeping in from the left, but there's lots of movement from the gold dots as well. Just got to polish off some of the glue that's sitting on top of them. So from the panel that I put the circle frame die cuts on, I actually made two cards. I cut the panel down and then cut it in half and put one half on each. So this goes all the way from the bottom almost to the top, and it's sitting on that third line there. I added this happy birthday on that intersection there, and then a row of wobbly gold dots, and I did pretty much the same thing with this one. That happy birthday is not quite in the same place, and that's not quite as far over. I rather like the way that they sort of come in from the top and up from the bottom. You don't have to have borders around the outside of everything. You can butt things up against the edge of the card too. Speaking of butting things up against the edge, I took the present piece and I die cut it using a stitched rectangle panel, but I die cut some of it off so it was coming in from the right hand side, and then I put that in the middle of the card vertically but right over to the edge, butted up against the edge. This happy birthday sits more or less in the centre of the card that way and that way, and I framed it with some wobbly gold circles. I might be tempted to die cut this present die out of gold foil card and then just take a few bits and maybe inlay them in there. Maybe the stripy ones would look quite good with gold inlaid there. So this was the little heart net from Tattered Lace. I might die cut it from gold foil again and then insert a few hearts. I think that would look quite nice. If I do that, I'll take a photo and put it at the end. I just popped that happy birthday up there. And for this one, I put the little panel up there with a diagonal of dots and a happy birthday that's sort of central that way. For these two, I added some tiny mini enamel dots, just dotted them around for a bit of an extra colour, a bit of gloss, a bit of dimension, some more energy, and then I added the die cuts there. These are quite clean and simple, some of these cards. There's a lot of empty space to allow the patterns and colours to breathe. So this one, I wasn't sure if I was going to turn it into a card because I felt that the colour of the flowers didn't really pop against the background. But when I cut it down with the stitched rectangle panel, I did really like it. I think it's subtle. So I popped it on a card and then I took one of these happy birthdays and stuck it over the bit where there was some missing bits of die cut. And I think that works. I haven't added any bling to it because the background is actually made from shimmer powders, not pixie powders, luscious powders. I haven't got any pixie powders. Don't know where that came from, but luscious powders, so it's already fairly shimmery. For this one, I popped the rectangle up there in the top left, giving it a little bit of extra space here. I do like things offset sometimes. And initially, I just stuck down this "Hope all your birthday wishes come true," but it was very kind of bland. It didn't really do anything for me. And then when I was rummaging through my box of dots, I found this gold love die. I don't know why it was in there, but it was. And I thought I'll stick that on as well. And I think that works now. I think maybe if I'd have done it again, I would have layered these two in some way because they're just kind of parked next to one another, but that's okay. And then finally, we've got this one here. And I just cut this out with a pair of scissors, stuck it on. It's about sitting on that third line there, and then added a happy birthday. It's a bit higher than the 1/3 line, but that's fine. What I should have done was stuck it down a little bit so I could cover up that smudge that I made when I rolled it up into the brayer, but we live and learn. I might be able to cover that up with a bit of white paint or something. I didn't feel like it needed any bling. I just thought the colours and the pattern would speak for itself. So that is another load of cards made, another batch of backgrounds busted. I really hope this video has given you lots of ideas that you can use in your own card making. And don't forget, you don't have to use DIY backgrounds to do these kind of cards. You could use pattern paper as well if you like. So if you have gleaned any ideas, I'd really appreciate a comment, a thumbs up. And if you want to see more from me, do subscribe and ring the notification bell, and I will see you back here very soon for another video. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.